Parkway Drive, The Void, right here on Metal with Sully. Now joining me in our second hour of the show, that's right, you heard second hour of the show, Mr. Colorado Wrestling himself, Big Guns, Justin Andrews. Big Guns, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and I hope everyone listening is also doing great. It's a good start to the week. We're only 2 days into the week, but I'm feeling like we're all going to have a good week this week. It's a premonition.
I hope so, man. You know what? Things have been turning around for everybody. Let's just keep it going. Speaking of busy week, you're a busy man this week. You were working on a secret project to be talked about way later. Not today, but way later. I saw that you're going to the Primo show Friday night, supporting them. That show is sold out. And you're also partaking Saturday in the Headlocks for Hospice show, which is CSW, Devotion Championship Wrestling, and Redemption Championship Wrestling, which is for a great cause. And you're wrestling twice that night, which is, I guess that's why they call you Mr. Colorado Wrestling, because you're up for it whenever and whenever. So
that's exactly right. It's not just that I'm wrestling twice, because there's 3 blocks of wrestling. So there's an opportunity for multiple people to wrestle twice, but I'm the only one who's doing it. I'm also one of the only people who's worked for all 3 companies consistently. So I main evented the first 2 Devotion Championship Wrestling shows. And of course, I've been a mainstay in CSW since its inception, and been doing a lot of stuff with Redemption as well. So they needed someone to fill in twice, and I am no stranger to hard work and no stranger to challenges. So, of course, when they asked, I said yes. And going along with that, to keep up with the busy week, also Thursday morning, for people who are in the Colorado Springs area, I'm going to be on the KRDO morning show. We're going to be filming a little segment from an undisclosed location talking about Headlocks for Hospice. So, yeah, I have been keeping busy, luckily.
So speaking of Headlocks, I'm actually going to have Mr. Randy Rude and the CEO of RCW, Mr. Jason Lee, on here tomorrow night talking about Headlocks and how big of a thing it is for all 3 of these companies to come together and participate in something this big. Now, you did mention the news. What time is that going to be on tomorrow? Is that just in the morning, or?
It's up Thursday, and it is going to, I don't know when our segment will be, but it runs from 6 to 8 is their morning show. So there'll be an interview with Randy Rude. I'll be doing an interview, and then we're going to film a little bit of in-ring action, some training footage as well.
Speaking of in-ring action, unfortunately, as many of you know, May Massacre it didn't happen. Due to safety issues, there was a lot of lightning and bad weather in the area. I wasn't there. You were there. You can vouch for that, because from what I've heard, it was a very bad scene up there. You guys tried to get a location. It didn't work out. So this is your first official, I say that with quotation marks, official event of the year, back in ring in front of a crowd, man. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. So we've filmed a few matches for the Rude Awakening podcast at the SoCo Pro Wrestling School. And I've done some stuff there. I've been training in different places. I can't say where. We're trying to keep everything hush-hush still, because we don't really know regulations and things like that. But, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better than ever. When I got back from Afghanistan this last time in November, I felt great, because I hadn't been wrestling for 6 months. And when you're in this business a long time, even for just the weekend warriors, it starts to wear on you for a while, after a while. And, the Mr. Colorado Wrestling thing, at first I felt like it was presumptuous. And it's not a nickname I came up with. That's something the fans gave me. And after a while of them calling me that, I realized I earned that, because I was working so much more than anyone else. And not just in Colorado, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Utah, Montana, all over the place. So it wears on you after a while. So this 3 months off has allowed me to focus on a little more flexibility, speed, things like that. Gyms are open again, so I can finally do more resistance training. But, things like my back, my hips, my elbows, the things that start to wear on you after, this is my 16th year in the business. I'm feeling good. And that's another reason when they said, hey, can you wrestle twice? I said, yeah, because I feel great. Now, a year from now, and we're back doing consistent shows, and I'm wrestling 2-3 times every weekend, and they ask me that question, maybe it'd be a different answer.
Not a thing. So I want to get your reaction because I know from a standpoint that, you're wrestling buff. What's your reaction on Monday Night Raw, actually WWE in itself, canceling TV tapings because one of the people in the crowd got diagnosed with COVID-19? And another thing is, what are your thoughts on them not wearing a mask and being in the general vicinity of each other?
Yeah, that's actually something I had talked about the first time they brought the Performance Center people in the crowd. And my first question when we were watching it, I was watching with my daughter, was, where are their masks? And again, we have to remember with COVID-19, the mask isn't to protect the person wearing it. It's to protect the people around you. So if you're wearing a mask, even if it's a cloth bandana or something, it's not going to prevent the virus from coming into you.
Mm-hmm.
It's preventing the virus from coming out of you. And we know now, after all this research, that there's asymptomatic carriers, which means you have the virus, you just aren't showing the symptoms of it. So basically what happened is you had all these people in that area, and they weren't, shoulder to shoulder. They're keeping their distance, but none of them were wearing masks. So some of them, maybe 1, maybe 10, who knows, were asymptomatic, and they passed it on. In WWE, I think they made the right decision to stop those tapings, because now they can go in, they can cleanse everything. WWE's got a huge operating budget, so they can get rid of that canvas, they can get rid of those ropes, sanitize everything, get rid of that plexiglass they have and get all new plexiglass in there, and come up with some better protocols. And I know people in masks in a crowd doesn't look that great on TV. We've done a little bit of, test run for tapings for Headlocks for Hospice and other promotions as well, as far as live streaming goes. And it looks weird when you have a bunch of people out there in masks, but it's not a joke. This isn't a hoax. This is a very serious illness. And we're seeing right now in 18 different states that the coronavirus cases are rising. Fortunately, Colorado is not one of them. Our cases are going down. And I like to think that's because we're using common sense. So it sucks as a wrestler and it sucks as a wrestling fan, but I hate to use that phrase, the new normal, but that's kind of what we're going to have to deal with at least through the end of this year, if not maybe into 2021.
Yeah, and that's also something to think about. Like, it's summer right now, but kids are going to be starting to go back to school here in a couple months. It is becoming the new normal. Like this weekend, I will be wearing face protection during the event, just because it's something that's in the back of my mind, and it's something, not only keep myself safe, but it's for everybody else. So the talent that we have there, the talent that we have coming in from Utah, the guys that are up in Springs, maybe they're driving down from Denver, just trying to keep everybody healthy.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want anyone to get sick. We don't want any wrestlers or any fans to get sick, because it's enough of a bummer already this past 3 months of us having no wrestling. And we've seen fits and starts, right? CSW was supposed to have 2 different shows that got canceled. The RCW show got canceled, and that was because 2 RCW shows got canceled. One was because of weather, but we're going to do it outdoors with no fans.
Yeah. And the other one before that got locked down because the location didn't have their yard done in time.
Right. And even the last RCW show we did, we still could only have a certain amount of fans there. They had to be 6 feet apart. We had to clean all those chairs beforehand and afterwards, the mats, the door handles, all that stuff. And that was before, I don't even know if Colorado had a coronavirus case at that point.
No, that was actually the 13th. It was basically the Friday before everything got shut down in state. We were basically, I want to say we were one of the last companies in Colorado to hold a live wrestling event, because after that, everything started to get canceled. You had New Era in Denver canceling shows. You had Primos canceling the show. So we legitimately held the last show in Colorado not to be shut down. And you were right. There were precautions. A lot of people didn't show up because they were worried about what was going on. Smaller crowd, but that smaller crowd, it had a really good feel, man. And
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see going forward once we start getting crowds back. We have to remember we're not going to get 100% capacity crowds for a while, and that's fine because the fans we do get are going to be very passionate. They're going to be very eager to see the great wrestling action that we're going to be giving them.
Exactly, like you said, not 100% capacity, but you know what? It's going to feel like it's 100% capacity in there because those people are just going to be excited to see live pro wrestling again. I know for me, this Saturday means a lot to me personally because it's finally an escape. 3 months locked up. I've had a lot happen in this 3 months. And the main reason this show means the much to me, I'm not sure. I've talked to you guys off and on throughout the whole thing. Many of you know, many of you don't know. The end of March, the reason this show means the most to me is at the end of March, we lost my wife's grandfather to cancer. And he was on hospice. So for a company to host a show raising awareness, not only that, but raising money for a company that does such great things, dude, it's just huge to me. So I'm ready to go.
It is. It's a great cause. It's funny you bring that up. So it's a new semester for those of us who are taking college summer classes. And one of the classes I'm taking, not to bum out any of your fans, is the philosophy of death. And here's the textbook right here. I'm actually working on the second chapter right now. And it's something that we all have to face. Now, I've had a lot of relatives die. I mean, I'm 36, so I don't have any blood grandparents left. I do have a grandmother. That's my grandfather's second wife. I've got one great aunt left. My mother-in-law has passed away. All my brother, three brothers-in-law, and my sister-in-law are no longer with us. My great aunt and uncle who I was very close with are no longer with us. So it's something that we all have to face. And I would think, and I'm sure that you can agree, especially with your wife's grandfather, that when that time comes, you want to do it in a place that you're comfortable with. No one wants to meet that inevitable end in a hospital, especially as you get older. And whether it's cancer or natural causes, eventually you're just going to decline. And you always want that to be somewhere peaceful, somewhere where you're familiar, which is your house. And that's where Sangre de Cristo hospice care, which is what Headlocks for Hospice is all about. That's what they do. They take care of you, and that's a hard job. I don't think a lot of people think about the hospice workers is you have to be very passionate about what you do, very kind, very supporting, and you have to have probably the biggest heart of anyone out there because of what you're constantly seeing. And it's a sobering thing. But if that's your passion, you can do so much good work and bring so much, ease at the end of life, not just for the person whose life is ending, but the family too, because you don't want your loved one to suffer or be locked away in a hospital somewhere. You want them to be at home and surrounded by their family and their loved ones. So we've done charity shows here in Colorado in the past. The first two Colorado United shows, which I was a huge part of, were both for the families of people who had passed. So it's very nice to come together with something like this, and instead of waiting until someone's gone and trying to scramble and help that family out, now we have the opportunity to help out those families while that person's still here so that they can enjoy those last, whether it's weeks or days with that person.
Yeah. And I totally agree, man, with everything you said. It's very important to have that person at home. They're in a comfortable environment because it's not only that, it's just important for them to feel that comfort as they move on.
Right.
Speaking of, all right, so we're going to move on here. I want to know your take, dude. What did you think of the spot with Ric Flair, if you watched Raw last night? Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Christian.
So I don't have cable anymore, so I watch everything on Hulu.
Yeah.
So for Hulu Live, for some reason where I'm at, Raw doesn't come on until like 9 p.m. Mountain, and it's already over. So I had already seen all the clips and everything, which is good because it means I didn't have to stay up till 11 like I normally do. Show. But yeah, I mean, I get where they're going with it, and I think everyone deserves a fitting end for their career, which Christian kind of never got. And I honestly, as big of a wrestling fan as I am, I don't even really know exactly what ended Christian's career. We know with Edge, it was the one specific injury, the same thing with like Stone Cold and a lot of that. And I think with Christian, it was just a lot of that crazy stuff they did when they were younger. It finally caught up to him, and the doctors were like, look, man, you can push it, but you might suffer some consequences. So for him to be able to come in there, and especially after that great match that his very close friend Edge had with Randy Orton, Ric Flair, I mean, Ric Flair's timeless. Did he need to be part of it? Probably not. But if you're Christian and someone's like, hey, we're going to throw Ric Flair in here because he has these ties to Randy Orton as Evolution, no one would turn that down, especially not Christian.
Yeah, dude. There's no way anybody would actually even turn that down, just because it just makes sense to go ahead and make sure that they can build a little bit more of that story. So what did you think of the whole? I'm pretty sure you saw it. The whole R-Truth Drew McIntyre spill throughout the whole entire night, just between him and MVP and Bobby Lashley. And MVP is another guy that surprised me that he actually even came back to the WWE.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise because and I've talked about this on your show before. I went on the last Chris Jericho cruise with my wife, and MVP was there. And like 2 days after we got back, he was on Raw, and he didn't say one word about it to anyone on that whole cruise, not even to the other wrestlers. So that was definitely a surprise. And he's doing, promo wise and character wise, he's doing the best stuff of his career. Obviously, the in ring stuff was better, way back when. But R-Truth, that's a guy that's, I mean, he's at the peak right now. If you'd asked me even 4 years ago what was the peak of R-Truth's career, I would say it was as Ron Killings when he was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion in the early days of TNA. I was, what could be better than being, the fantastic lineage of that title? But he's really dove into that entertainment aspect of it. He can still deliver in the ring, obviously, but I mean, his stuff was great, and especially when you take a very serious character like a Drew McIntyre, who's, I mean, the guy is just built. He just looks mean. He's got everything you could ask for as far as a wrestler goes. You throw a little bit of entertainment in there with him, and then also the sports entertainment side, which is the thing that are going on with like Lashley and MVP and Lana and all that stuff. That's more sports entertainment, where R-Truth is more just entertainment. So you put it all together, and I know a lot of people are down on WWE right now, but I just read right before we went on the air that that's the best ratings they've got in Raw since post-WrestleMania. So, I mean, someone's liking it, you know. And you just have to realize they're in a tough spot, and they're doing everything they can. And there's going to be misses and there's going to be hits, and this ended up being a hit.
So, who do you think's winning the Wednesday Night War between NXT and AEW? I know you're a huge AEW fan, but I still have to ask.
I am. Man, that's tough. So, I mean, right now, like just ratings-wise and viewership-wise, it's AEW. I mean, they don't fall to NXT very often. Look at them and say, what is a casual wrestling fan going to enjoy more?
Yeah.
And that, I would say it's going to be NXT.
Yeah.
You might be able to, I would say every casual wrestling fan is going to know who Chris Jericho is. Every casual wrestling fan is going to know Matt Hardy, Jake Roberts, Arn Anderson, things like that. But does a casual wrestling fan know who Colt Cabana is? Do they know who Jungle Boy is? Do they know who Darby Allin is? And these are the guys who are top performers in AEW and top producers in AEW. So, if you listen to or read a lot of the criticisms of AEW, and you kind of have to be an AEW fan to be an AEW fan. They're not really bringing anything new in. Yeah. NXT, they don't have to bring new viewers in because they're the developmental territory for the WWE. So they don't have to be beating AEW. They can be neck and neck with them, but when those casual fans start to come back to wrestling, because this has happened several times just in my lifetime, these down periods, when those casual wrestling fans come back, are they going to be more attracted to an AEW product, which is sort of sillier and you have, some of that kind of stuff, or are they going to go more for an NXT, which is what AEW is sort of promised, high action, not a ton of storyline. Even the big storylines in NXT right now are all sort of action based. So, I mean, ratings wise, AEW, but long term wise, probably NXT. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
So you said that we're going to have to kind of, in this downtime, people go back to wrestling. And I think we're actually going to have a lot more people actually flock back to pro wrestling just because you got baseball season done, hockey season, they probably won't even start until, late. Football season is way out there. They're not even sure if they're going to have fans. They still don't know what they're doing. The only other two things to choose from, or there's a couple things. You got NASCAR, America right there by itself. You got pro wrestling, and then you got, rugby out of Australia.
Right. So that's something that, we're going to have to compete with as far as entertainment dollars, because wrestling without fans isn't really wrestling as people remember it. You can watch a NASCAR race or even a baseball game without the fans, or even a football game. But wrestling, you kind of need the fans. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. I know that phrase is sort of overused right now, but for sure it's an interesting time. It's an uncertain time. And we'll see, especially on the independent wrestling level, how some of these early shows back are going to go. RCW is sort of leading the way because Southern Colorado has the least amount of COVID cases. So they're able to get variances and things like that. I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but, they're able to do more than, say, the Denver promotions are.
So as of, I think it was the 13th, we have 26 cases. 21 of those are confirmed. The other 5 are just throw it up in the air and call it what it is. So they really didn't test them. They just assumed the presumed positive, which I thought we weren't doing anymore. Those are what those are. So in all reality, we only have really 21 actually confirmed cases out of the rest of the state. And you're right. We are leading the way, but it's also we're at the mercy of the health department when they're going to open things back up. I know for a fact, just because I've been following it very closely and I've been in contact with some people at the health department, we're waiting for that third and final variance to pop through. As soon as that happens, we will actually be at the location that we were for our last show, Tap Out, for our first show, actual gym show back probably here in Colorado. I know,
which is great because that's a great venue. Another thing that independent wrestling has to deal with is a lot of our venues are bar-oriented venues. And the reason for that is independent wrestling fans like to drink and bars like to have wrestling. It produces a lot of dollars for them. Places like the Corner Pocket here in Fountain, which is where CSW's held their last grip of shows, make money hand over fist. So they want those. But the problem with that is a bar and a restaurant, you have to be extra careful with those health precautions because now you have food, now you have drinks, now you have this, that, and the other. Whereas a gym show, like the venue for Tap Out, you maybe don't have to worry about that. I mean, there's concessions, but it's very small and very sanitary as opposed to like a whole bar back.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? This is actually going to be my first time at the corner pocket. I've been down here for 10 years, man. I have not really gone up that way. And, of course, I really didn't get into all this until I met Jason. And I knew him from years ago. And he's like, hey, man, we're starting a wrestling company. You want to be our ring announcer? I'm like, well, hell yeah. Let's see what this turns into.
So I live very close to the corner pocket. I'd never been there. I'm not a bar guy. I'm not a pool guy. So the reason that CSW got hooked up with these guys in the first place was twofold. Randy Rude knows the owner. And then 2 years ago, March 2017, we ran a show at the Beckett Event Center, which is kitty corner to the corner pocket. And that was our show where we brought in Shark Boy. And we had a legitimate sellout crowd. Like, we could not fit another person in that building without the fire department shutting us down. Huge success. But for people who know a guy like Shark Boy, who's been wrestling for almost 30 years, he's a bit of an old school guy, even though he's part shark. And he wanted to go out and have a few afterwards. And so he asked me, because I was the one who was escorting him around. I'm like, dude, I don't go to bars, but there's one right over there. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll walk over there and, meet me over there when you're done tearing down the ring. Okay. Well, big time wrestler. No, most guys aren't like that. But yeah. So then we went over there, and all of a sudden the corner pocket, which, this was on a Saturday night. It's in the same shopping center as like a Walmart. Oh, so Jesus. They didn't have a lot of people because corner pocket relies a lot on their billiards leagues.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything on Saturday night. They're still open. But there was like 5 or 6 people in there, and like a guy right next to the jukebox, and all of a sudden 30 wrestlers and 75 fans show up. And none of them know who Shark Boy is because he was out of shark costume. He was just a regular guy.
Yeah.
So, I was talking to him and hanging out with him and everything. We were trying to keep the fans away so we wouldn't ruin the magic.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, there were so many fans there and so many people coming in that they started giving all of us wrestlers drinks. And there's a few wrestlers who don't drink at all. So Shark Boy and I started taking their drinks. And next thing you know, my wife's driving us home, and I don't remember much. But we got Shark Boy on the plane the next day, is all I'll say. That's how the CSW relationship with the corner pocket started. And so it's got a little sort of like pit in it, which is where all the billiards tables are. And I remember, I was a few drinks in and turned around and I asked Shark Boy, I'm like, hey, man, what's the lowest ceiling you've ever wrestled in? And he'd be like, I know what you're thinking, and definitely this would be it. And I said, mine is at the Reading Convention Center in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is where, if you guys follow Chikara, that's where they used to do their early shows. There's a famous picture on my Facebook where I'm doing a missile drop kick from the bottom rope because the ceiling was so low. And I was like, you know what? If we can do a show in there, we can do a show at the corner pocket. And it just never really materialized until Randy Rude started becoming a little more involved. And he asked me, he was like, hey, do you think we would ever run a show like at this corner pocket place? Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, have I heard of it? Yeah, I have, actually. So I told him the whole story. And once he talked to the owner, he's like, yeah, you remember the company that brought all those people in here that one night? He was like, yeah, absolutely, come in. And there you go. But long story short, the ceiling of the corner pocket is extremely low. The ring we have is like 7 inches off the ground, and I wrestled Damon Ace there, and I couldn't suplex him because we would have put the ceiling tiles out. Now, granted, Damon Ace is like 6'6", but
Who you got? All right, I'm gonna throw out like one match. I don't think everybody knows about the other one just yet. Balam Lynx or Logan Austin, RCW champion?
Well, that's a tough one. Now, I've wrestled both of them, but I've wrestled Logan Austin many more times than I've wrestled Balam. And I will say this, that Logan Austin is extremely skilled, and if there's any youngster out there who could beat Balam Lynx, it's him. But I will also say this, that Balam Lynx has has barely sniffed that title. It's his first championship ever. And you're going to really have to bring the heat to wrest that title from him. And Logan Austin's main offense is in the air. Like we just said, low ceiling. He's not going to be able to do a Phoenix 450 splash. He's not going to be able to do a huge frog splash or these massive missile drop kicks. So he's going to have to adjust his game and try and fight Balam, who is bigger, especially if you've seen his recent workout pictures. He's getting huge. You're going to have to try and maybe hit him real fast because Balam Link's going to hit harder. So it's tough. I don't really want to call it. Logan's got the passion just like Balam does, but again, this is Balam's first championship, and I believe this will be his first title defense. So I can't see Logan Austin winning it from him, but if there's someone who's going to take that title from him, it's going to be Logan Austin. So it's too tough to call. It's definitely one that all the fans need to tune into, as it's going to be live streaming on Facebook.
Sweet. So what is Logan Austin's moniker? Isn't it like the Flying Hawaiian or something?
Flying Hawaiian.
Yeah, come Saturday, it's going to be the Grounded Hawaiian.
He has wrestled the corner pocket before a few times, so maybe he's adjusted to it. I don't know.
We can hope for the best. I'm sorry, man. I know I'm looking at my phone. Most of you can't see this because we're on air, but we're doing a Zoom meeting. It just makes it more fun for us. I'm actually just trying to pull up the card from this Saturday, go over it with you just a little bit more. I'm trying not to give too much away, just because, like I said in the beginning of the interview, we're going to have Randy Rude and Jason Leon tomorrow.
Yeah, there is a ton of matches that have not been announced yet. I believe there's 15 or 16 matches, and they've announced 4 or 5.
See, this is why I kept my mouth shut, because one of the matches I was going to talk to you about is not on Facebook yet. So I'm glad I kept that one under wraps. I would have got an angry phone call. Just glad I don't work for Vince McMahon. What the hell are you doing? All right, Manny. This is in the 8th. This is in Block 3. So you got Manny Lemons versus Marlon Bishop.
I think Marlon Bishop's head is going to hit the ceiling when he steps into the ring. Have you seen that guy? Have you ever seen him in action?
I have not, man. I mean, a lot of this stuff is new to me. A lot of these guys that I'm going to meet this Saturday, I've never met before. So it's going to be interesting.
He was, before he started wrestling, he was legitimately in the NFL. So he is a massive human being. I've wrestled Manny many times. The 2 first main events for Devotion, like I said, I wrestled him. So that's Manny's pride and joy. He's worked very, very hard to obtain that championship. He was the driving force behind Devotion Championship Wrestling, and because of that, a lot of times you get held back and you don't get the opportunities for those championships because you don't want to seem you got nepotism going on. So he had to bust his butt to get that belt. But man, I don't know anyone who could beat Marlon Bishop. So I got to go with Bishop on this one. But again, it comes down to what I said about Balam and Logan Austin is the person holding that strap. If that's their pride and joy, which it is for Manny Lemons, that's tough to overcome.
Jeez. Well, Big Guns, I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight, man. I'm loving this 2-hour. I got 3 hours now to just basically sit back, play music, and shoot shit with wrestlers. So,
awesome.
So man, and probably my highlight of the whole entire night was the Shark Boy story. That was fucking.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
I could go way more in depth, but I knew we didn't have unlimited time.
Yeah,
I took Shark Boy we drank so much that we went to Jack in the Box multiple times. Jack in the Box shares a parking lot with the Corner Pocket.
Oh no!
I hate Jack in the Box. I never eat Jack in the Box. That's how I knew I was like, all right, we're in trouble here, man.
Let's go get some greasy burgers across the way, and it's like, I shouldn't have
tacos. You wanted the tacos. You gotta get the tacos. Trust me, bro. Trust me. Okay.
Tacos from Jack in the Box. Oh, God. Oh, no. You think they would put a Taco Bell close by somewhere, you know?
There it is. It's 2 blocks away.
Oh, no.
You can see it. You poke your head out the corner pocket, look down, and you see the Taco Bell sign.
All right, Big Guns, thanks for joining me. Hang on 1 second for me, brother, all right?
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Colorado Wrestling himself, Justin Big Guns Andrew. I'd like to thank him for joining me tonight right here on Metal with Sully. Now let's jump back into it. This is Fever 333, one of us right here on Metal with Sully. Dude, thank you so much for joining me tonight. That was awesome. So...